This is a police officer's uniform, a Baltimore City police officer in particular, named Robert White. He gave me this uniform when he and I became the very best of friends. I met him just a month after he got out of prison. He was in prison serving a sentence for assault with intent to murder 2 black men with a shotgun. Now, I am a professional musician, so how do I end up with a policeman's uniform? But he also had another job, which required a different kind of uniform. He was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan for the state of Maryland. This is his robe. To understand why I have these items, let's take a little journey back in my life. One of the times when we came back from an assignment overseas, I was age 10. And I was in a school in which I was one of 2 black kids. And we had a parade one day in which I was the only black participant. And all the spectators along the sidewalk were happy, except for 4 or 5 of them somewhere down the parade route who began throwing things at me. And I did not understand it. I got hit in the face and in the side. And my scout leaders, huddled over me with their bodies to protect me and escorted me out of the danger. But they never told me why this was happening. And when I got home, my parents were not at the march, and then they explained what racism was. I never even heard the word racism. Why would I? Because I was around people from all over the world and we all got along. It was inconceivable to me that someone who had never laid eyes on me, never spoken to me, knew absolutely nothing about me, would want to inflict pain upon me for no other reason than this, the color of my skin. My 10-year-old brain just could not process the idea of hurting somebody just because of the color of their skin. So that's how that whole quest started. Well, shortly thereafter, on April the 4th of that same year, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And every major city in this country burned to the ground, sort of like what we're seeing, these days, right? I formed a question in my mind. That question was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? I understood that racism existed, but I didn't know why it existed. Why do you hate someone when you don't know them? And that question has plagued me all into my adulthood, which I believe steered me on the path that I've gone on. So I had my secretary who books my bands and all that kind of stuff. I said, listen, I want you to get a hold of this guy. His name is Roger Kelly. I acquired Mr. Kelly's phone number. Mr. Kelly is what's known as the Imperial Wizard. Do not tell him that I'm black, but see if he'll sit down and give your boss an interview. He wants to discuss the Ku Klux Klan. Imperial Wizard is a national leader in the Ku Klux Klan. I was told, do not fool with Mr. Kelly, Daryl. He will kill you. And I'm like, well, that's the whole reason I need to fool with him. I need to find out, why would he kill me? Just because I'm black. I mean, what is going through his head? This is what I'm after, that information. So Mary and I, secretary, got there super early, like several hours early, got a room, and I sent her down the hallway with some money to get soda pop out of the machine and fill up the ice bucket and put the soda in there and get it cold, so I'd be able to offer this man a cold beverage when he arrived. Right on time, to the minute, there was a knock on the door. Mary hops up and runs around the corner, opens the door. In walks Mr. Kelly, and in walked what is known as the Grand Nighthawk. Nighthawk means bodyguard in Klan terminology. And he had a semi-automatic, which was a Glock 19 on his hip. And the faces spelled out to me what was going on. They were thinking, did the desk clerk downstairs give us the wrong room number? Did we misunderstand something? Or is this an ambush? And I saw the apprehension. And I stood up and went like this to show I had nothing in my hands. And I approached. I said, hi, Mr. Kelly, I'm Daryl Davis. He shook my hand. The bodyguard shook my hand. I said, come on and have a seat, have a seat. Mr. Kelly sat down. And the bodyguard stood at attention to his right. And then I had to show my ID to him. And then I sat down and I put the cassette recorder in the middle of this table so I could record the interview. And he said it would be okay. I had this bag sitting beside me in which I had the cassette recorder, a little black canvas bag. And so I also had a copy of the Bible in the bag, because the Klan justifies their beliefs because they claim the Bible preaches this. It preaches separation of the races and all kinds of stuff, which I've never seen in the Bible, all right? And I'm a Christian too. So I wanted to be able to, reach down, pull out my Bible and say, here, Mr. Kelly, please show me chapter and verse where it says blacks and whites must be separate. When I'd reach down, the Nighthawk would reach up to his gun and put his hand on the butt of the gun. And as far as they're concerned, I'm the enemy. So I get it. So I didn't have a problem with that. And we conversed, agreed on some things, disagreed on other things, but he let me know. He let me know that I was not his equal. I was inferior, he was superior. And this was justified and determined by the color of my skin. I wasn't there to fight him, I was there to learn from him. Where does this ideology come from? Because once you learn where it comes from, you can then try to figure out how to address it. Maybe about a little over an hour into this interview, there's kind of a strange noise in the room, kind of, and we all jumped. And I popped up out of my seat, there's a table between us. And I was ready to come across that table and take down Mr. Kelly and the bodyguard, because I knew that Mr. Kelly had made that noise. I didn't know what that noise was, I could not discern it, and I kept hearing the voice of the person who gave me his phone number saying, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly, he will kill you. I did not want to die that day, but I knew that he made the noise because I didn't make it. So if I didn't make it, he had to have made it, right? You always try to blame somebody else. And I'd gone into what you call survival mode. When you fear for your life, that's where you go. In survival mode, people will do one of three things. Some people, when you fear for your life, some people will just tense up and start shaking, and you can be taking a hammer or a bat and hitting them on the head, and they will not even be deflecting the blows, just be like this. That is called paralysis by fear, and it is a real thing. The second thing people will do is they will try to run away as quickly as possible to put as much distance between the source of the fear and themselves. That is the best option, if you can do that. However, it was not an option for me, because you cannot outrun a bullet in a motel room. I was not armed, neither was my secretary. The only person I know for sure who was armed was the bodyguard. You can see his weapon right here. The third option is do a preemptive strike to mitigate the danger. In other words, get them before they get you. So I was about to do that. And when I came up out of my seat, I was looking right into Mr. Kelly's eyes. I didn't say a word, but my eyes were speaking loud and clear. What did you just do? Well, Mr. Kelly's eyes had fixated upon mine, and his eyes were silently asking me the same question. Where the bodyguard had his hand on his gun, looking back and forth between the Klan leader and me, like, what did either one of y'all just do? Well, Mary, she realized what happened, and she began explaining it to us, and then it happened again. What was happening was the ice in the ice bucket had begun to melt, and the cans of soda were shifting in the ice. And so, and we all began laughing at how ignorant we all had been. And and think about it, how stupid and ridiculous. It's like a Three Stooges thing, Somebody almost got themselves killed or hurt over a piece of ice. All because some foreign, an underscore, highlight, circle the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made. We all became fearful and accusatory of one another. Thus, ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things we do not understand. If we do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will breed hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us. If we do not keep that hatred in check, that hatred in turn will breed destruction. We want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they cause us to be afraid. But guess what? They may have been harmless and we were just ignorant. I would invite Mr. Kelly to my home. He would have dinner or lunch at my table with me, this inferior person that he deemed not his equal. After a couple years, he began coming down to my house by himself, a national leader in the Ku Klux Klan. And then he began inviting me to his house. Then he began inviting me to Klan rallies. I'd go to these Klan rallies that have a 20 or 30-foot cross, a wooden cross, two beams tied together, wrapped in burlap. The burlap was soaked in what they call Klan cologne, otherwise known as diesel fuel or kerosene. And Klansmen and Klanswomen in their robes and hoods and torches would parade around in a circle around the cross. Then he'd say, "For God," and they'd say, "For God," "For race," "For race," "For country," "For country." This big cross would be on fire. And there's a rally with the cross on fire. But I'm trying to learn and understand what is the impetus for it. So, after a while, CNN got wind of this and wanted to do a story on me. They knew me as a musician. They knew who Mr. Kelly was as a Klan leader. And this clip was shown every hour for 24 hours all over the world. I want to show it to you right now, and I want you to pay particular attention to what Mr. Kelly says. He says that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years.
Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly.
We get to know one another and we do different things, you know. It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, you know, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
Hate stems, I believe, from fear of the unknown. And I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's a Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
And I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I will follow right man to hell on back, because I believe in what he stands for and he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Respect is the key. Sitting down and talking, not necessarily agreeing, but respecting each other to air their points of view. Because of that respect and my willingness to listen and his willingness to listen to me, he ended up leaving the Klan, and there's his robe right there. I am a musician, not a psychologist or sociologist. If I can do that, anybody in here can do that. Take the time to sit down and talk with your adversaries. You will learn something and they will learn something from you. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So keep the conversation going.